Well, Iowa certainly feels like the center of the political universe. It won't just be Iowa voters watching tonight. I'm joined by someone who has personally had to deal with making a decision to skip a debate when he was running for president. Former Utah Governor Jon Huntsman is with me now. He was also a presidential candidate in the 2012 election. So I don't want to say pulled a Trump, but you did sit out a couple of debates, correct? How did that affect you?
First, it's great to be with you, and congratulations on the rally in the market today. That's the best news of all.
Finally.
I think back on 4 years ago, and it seems like so last century. I mean, the rules of the game have changed so remarkably in just 4 years, and I think fundamentally changed forever. I had my differences ideologically with some of the voters in Iowa. I was anti-agriculture subsidies. I was pro-marriage equality. So there were just some things you say, where do you want to put your time? Where do you want to spend the last remaining hours in the contest? But this go around, I have to say, Liz, that this is the closing argument that these candidates are making. And I would say that the closing arguments that are made tonight in Iowa are a lot more important than they were for any candidate 4 or 8 years ago. What are the voters looking for this go around? They're looking for strength. They're looking for somebody who's not the traditional politician. And Trump is doing something that I think is altogether novel. He's a business guy. I mean, if I had told you, Liz, a year ago, that the front runner would live in a big condo on Fifth Avenue, that he never would have held elective office, never in uniform, at all-out war with your network, by the way, you would have called me crazy, and that's where we are. So Trump, in kind of playing to where I think he perceives the base in Iowa as being, they want strength, they want somebody who's not the traditional politician. He's using leverage in politics, which is rarely used. It's used a lot in business. He understands the principle extremely well. He's a Wharton School guy. He's using leverage in politics just like he used leverage in business. And it's high risk, high reward. He's running a risk here, but the reward could be significant in terms of the kind of audience he gets tonight and the way in which he's able to make his closing arguments about, I'm strong, nobody else on that stage is, they're all the same, they speak the same language, and by the way, they're all in that hall down the street doing a debate, and I'm not there. I'm here with our veterans doing something altogether different. Well, my guess is that that's his game.
Having been on the ground and having watched all of these things, how do you think Iowans will take it when they walk to those caucus locations and they decide for whom they will vote?
That is the question. The polls tell you one thing, that Trump is very, very competitive. What I think he's done in the last week or two is he's been able to connect with the evangelical base. So you have to look at the voting blocks in Iowa that gather in parking lots, put people in vans, ship them off to the voting precincts, the caucuses. Who's best organized on the ground in terms of that thing called get out the vote? And my guess is that he's been able to penetrate what once was Cruz's stronghold, the evangelical vote. If that's the case, then I think he's going to be very, very competitive in Iowa. Now, I've been to New Hampshire in the last couple of weeks, and I can tell you Trump is extremely strong on the ground there. And if he wins Iowa and New Hampshire, I'm not sure there's a whole lot left in this campaign cycle.
Well, you mentioned the markets. I need to ask you before you go, China, and you were the ambassador to China. Wow, we're seeing a gain here of 134 points, but certainly the Dow had a very rough January. How much do you attribute that to China and its tin ear on communicating what was going on in its own markets?
I think a lot of it is oil. I think a lot of it is uncertainty around general GDP growth. The China story has been factored into the marketplace for at least maybe 2.5 years now, so that's not a new story. But I will have to tell you that when the Shenzhen marketplace dropped 30–40% last August, and when it's been so shaky early this year, the markets, both Shanghai and Shenzhen, are coming to ground. The PE ratios have been exceedingly high there, totally out of proportion to the underlying realities of the marketplace. They're coming down. That carries with it a scare factor, and a lot of the small investors in China are fleeing and they're selling, and that creates a whole other dynamic by itself. So my guess is that we're going to continue to go through a rocky period in the China story as they go from investments and exports to consumption. It'll be a very rickety, uncertain journey, but we're going to have some real export potential as a country when the consumers begin buying more in China.
Is there anything else you can't talk about? I mean, you can talk about anything: business, markets, politics. It's great to see you.
Just remember, I'm a total imperfect practitioner of politics. So thanks for reminding me of that.
And a lovely person when it comes to self-deprecation. Thank you. Great to see you.
Thanks, Liz. Always a pleasure.